The Office of the Ombudsman has asked the Sandigan Bayan to issue a precautionary whole departure order against Senator Rodante Marcoleta, former Congressman Michael Defensor, and businessman Joseph Espiritu and Aristotle Viray. The request was made through a verified ex parte application after the four were charged with plunder, indirect bribery, and violation of Presidential Decree Number 46, which prohibits gift giving to public officials. The request aims to prevent the four individuals from leaving the country while proceedings related to the case are ongoing.
Joining us now is Attorney Paulo Tamase, Associate Dean of the UP College of Law. Attorney, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, and to your viewers.
All right, Attorney, let's get right to it. Can you explain to us ano po ang isang precautionary whole departure order? Ano pagkakaiba nito sa actual whole departure order?
So, dahil sa developments in the Supreme Court in the late 2010s, we have several orders now which, all of which will prevent an individual from leaving the Philippines because of a criminal case. There is the whole departure order which is issued by the court when there is already a case filed with the court. A precautionary whole departure order, on the other hand, is applied for by the Department of Justice, or in this case, the Ombudsman, when there is a criminal investigation ongoing, but that there is a risk that the person may leave the country.
And of course, this one was, hindi naman ito po pwede rin ibigay kay Senator Bato de la Rosa. On the other hand, because wala naman po siyang local case here, tama po ba?
Yes, so there's no local case for him. It will be difficult for the DOJ or the Ombudsman or Philippine authorities in general to file a whole departure order case versus him.
Well, dito po sa sa naging kaso po ngayon ay kinakaso against Senator Marcoleta et al. Ay usapin po ng bribery at nagiging matagal po na diskusyon ito doon sa election code po ng COMELEC, dahil po parang ang sinasabi po kasi dito hindi parang kaparehas din po kay Senator Chis Escudero yung corporate veil, kumbaga individual, hindi siya kasama doon sa kumpanya. Can you tell us more about it?
So based on the what I understand from this case, the original charge versus Senator Marcoleta was supposed to be violation of election expenditure or violation of the Omnibus Election Code. But the COMELEC has already dismissed that case on the defense of Senator Marcoleta na hindi naman na siya kandidat or hindi pa siya kandidato at the time that he received the amounts from individuals. But the natural consequence of that is if hindi ka kandidato and you receive a certain, or in this case, a significant sum without any explanation from a person who is not connected to you, then there might be an exposure to bribery or because of the amount involved, no plunder. So yun ang naintindihan ko na kinaso ng Ombudsman kay Senator Marcoleta.
Okay, well, moving on to Senator Bato naman, regard yung official resolution sa TRO, Attorney. Now that may TRO and pending pa hinihintay natin yung decision on the main issue or the main case, ano po ang legal remedies aside from waiting for the main case, which alam naman natin may take a while before i-resolve the Supreme Court? Ano ang recourse ng team nila Bato?
Well, that's precisely it. The denial of a TRO, denial of a temporary restraining order, that only means that we're still waiting for the ruling on the main case. But in the meantime, the court is not going to stop the parties from their best interpretations of the Constitution or applicable laws. So, effectively, kung ano ho yung pwedeng gawin ng parties, for example, implementing the warrant of arrest, hindi po yun pinipigil ng Korte Suprema as of the meantime. On Senator Bato's side, I understand that they intend to file a motion for reconsideration. Isa naman po yun sa mga remedies na pwedeng ihain kung na-deny po yung TRO. And I think yun po yung pinakamabilis na pwede huli lang hingin from the court. That said, based on the explanations yesterday, and you had 9 opinions in addition to the main court's resolution, 5 of those opinions or separate opinions are in dissent, 4 are in favor. I'm di po ako sure, no, if unless makakapagpakita po sa rin ni Senator De La Rosa ng something that the court got wrong or facts that they did not appreciate. Although the court said hindi siya trier of facts, kung magagrant po yung motion for reconsideration. But ayaw po natin pangunahan yung korte dun sa decision na
Pero
yun.
based sa resolution, attorney, parang sinabi rin ng Supreme Court na parang the camp of Senator Bato failed to state kung anong right mismo ni Senator Bato ang nava-violate. Parang walang nakikita, no? And with that, would you interpret that as possibly when they make a decision on the main issue, it might go against Senator Bato?
I don't think so. If we look at the vote is 951 of the 9. Only 4 have written separately. And I think gave some indication kung ano at least yung position nila as of the moment with regard to the International Criminal Court proceedings. But 5 of the 9 did not issue separate votes, if my count is correct. So that means that narrow lang po yung denial ng TRO.
Okay.
There are generally 4 requirements for the issuance of a TRO. The first is a clear legal right. The second is material violation of that right. Yung third is urgency, right? Of irreparable injury, and the fourth is no plain, speedy, adequate remedy. The most significant discussion of the court turns to the lack of a clear legal right. So hindi po ibig sabihin na walang right si Senator Bato. It just means that dahil pending pa ho yung main case, yung argument po niya ng karapatan naka-hinge necessarily doon sa mga issue na hindi pa dinedesisyon ng korte. So they include, may jurisdiction pa ba yung ICC? Will RA 9851 apply? Kailangan ba dumaan sa local court? All of these issues, hindi pa ako nagde-decide. I think in one of the clips before this interview, Attorney Torion said na parang of first impression, which precisely means dahil hindi pa siya na-rule ng court, hindi pa malinaw kung may doon karapatan si Senator Bato. So doon po I think nag-fail yung TRO application.
So, okay, so right now, ang TRO po ay wala, hindi po na-grant kay Senator Bato de la Rosa. And we all know that there are possible TRO arrest warrant, no? ICC arrest warrant daw na maaaring ma-release, hindi natin alam kung kailan. So ito po ba ay enforceable na din given na wala pong TRO kay Senator, or maaaring din mag-seek ng TRO yung ibang maaaring mabigyan ng ICC arrest warrant?
I think that because walang na-issue na TRO denial, yung Philippine government can keep to the position that it has had, which has emerged only quite recently, no, na they do have the power and authority to implement ICC warrants. Lately lang po lumabas yan. It's a 2-week-old position since for the longest time, hindi naman po articulated yung position ng Executive Department. That means that if may further warrants to be released and to be sent to Philippine authorities, then they can keep the same posture. Pareho lang po yung position nila dun kay Senator Bato. Of course, that means that one, pwedeng mag-file ng further TRO applications yung other persons, alleged co-perpetrators in the war on drugs. Ibig sabihin din po na that they might need to file their own petitions with the Supreme Court. Kasama na po yung TRO application doon. When that happens, there will be some pressure on the court to decide on the main case. Kasi whether we like it or not, related po lahat ng issue. As early as the petitions for habeas corpus that were filed against President Duterte. No? At least one of the issues there would be ano po ba talaga yung power ng ICC, ano po yung effect niya on the requirement of a warrant in the Philippine Constitution, can they be reconciled, etc. All of these issues tali po. So kung may parating pa ko na investigation, it certainly does help for the court to decide sooner than later.
Now that you mentioned it, Attorney, no, yung habeas corpus, we spoke with Attorney Sal Panelo yesterday. Dapat daw ang ginawa kay Senator Bato nila, Attorney Torion, is file for habeas corpus immediately. Ano po ang pagkakaiba nito sa ginawa ni Attorney Torion?
I think with respect, hindi ko makita how a habeas corpus petition would prosper. Usually, a habeas corpus petition is filed against, and hopefully I'm stating the law accurately here, is filed against a person with authority, no, under whom one is being detained. So it's a person with custody over the person subject of the habeas corpus. And in this case, Senator Bato was not under the custody of law enforcement or
Exactly.
under the custody of the executive. In fact, when he was in the Senate, he was under the quote-unquote protective custody of the Senate. So kanino po isasampa yung kaso, no? Baka hindi din po siya ganun ka-effective, although the benefit kasi of a habeas corpus is expedited yung hearings niya.
Yes.
Pero-
But that said, dahil yung remedy po, kasi sa habeas corpus is, yung una pong remedy doon, ipagpapaliwanag po yung officer na nagde-detain kung bakit po niya din-detain yung tao at ano po yung circumstances. So hindi naman po pwede yun isend sa Senado kasi cooperating po si Senator Bato with the Senate. He asked for the Senate's protective custody. So hindi ko makita actually kung saan
Right.
ito or kung how it will play out.
Ang sinabi ni Attorney Sal, mag-i-file against daw the NBI, although wala yung physical custody daw, but parang ang sinasabi niya rin, i-restrict daw ang liberty to move ni Senator Bato because of the NBI trying to enforce an invalid warrant. Parang ganun ang explanation niya.
I can see the creativity with the argument, but respectfully, parang it doesn't really tie with previous cases of habeas corpus.
Yeah.
In previous cases, there is actual custody
Okay.
of the person subject of the habeas corpus petition. And I think even during the standoff, supposedly, hindi naman natin masabi
Right.
na nandun. I mean, the Senate wasn't actually admitting that Senator De La Rosa was there. Even nung umalis na siya from the Senate, hindi naman nila inamin na umalis na siya. So for all intents and purposes, hindi actually alam ng NBI that this person was even under their custody. So parang hindi ko sure kung magpe-play out yung argument na yun. In any event, all of this said, mabadali po kasi mamut ang habeas corpus petition. The moment that the person escapes the custody of the officer for whatever reason, there's a risk na mamut po yung petition. Kasi wala na pong ipag-uutos yung korte, nakalaya na po.
That's right.
Oo, exactly. And I think that legal remedy or legal option is banking on na magiging in favor doon kay Senator Bato yung magiging ruling ng Senate. Kasi if not, ay nandoon na sa harapan ng korte si Senator Bato. If they deny yung kanyang habeas corpus, pwede na siyang hulihin right there and there. Tama po ba?
Yes, kung nandun naman na po siya, right?
That's
Parang too
risky
late
also
na by
for
that
them.
time. Yes, and I think it goes back to the TRO, the opinions of the court in the TRO denial. Of course, preliminary lang po yung views ng justices natin doon. But there were suggestions na parang mahirap naman mag-grant ng relief na hinihingi kung wala po sa harap nila yung tao na humihingi.
Exactly.
No? And may ganun na certain fairness involved here. Kung hihingi po kasi ng aid si Senator Bato from the courts, then part of it involves subjecting himself to the legal processes. But at the moment, hindi po kasi natin alam kung nasaan po siya. No? Hindi din po dinidisclose kung nasaan na po siya ngayon. So parang mahirap naman po bigyan ng ganong kind of relief yung tao na parang namamangka sa dalawang ilog
Right.
yun na magpa-participate lang siya dun sa legal na proseso sa Pilipinas kung papabor sa kanya yung decision. So may ganon din po na fairness aspect involved.
Well, I would always hear ang kampo po nila Senator Bato de la Rosa na dapat dumaan sa local court. Okay, for the sake of argument, Attorney Paulo, padaanin natin sa local government. What happens then?
Local court.
Local court. What happens? Di ba hindi po ba parang babasahin lang naman yung case sa kanya and then magpo-proceed? Ano po ba mangyayari if dumaan sa local court?
So, two difficulties po. No? The first is the Supreme Court issued rules on extradition last year. I think last year or 2 years ago, around the time actually na na-arrest si President or na-surrender si President Duterte. Those rules, if you read them, do not account for warrants issued by an international court. They often refer to a foreign court. And important po yung distinction na yun kasi yung foreign court po, let's say, as a particular example, courts ng United States, wala po yung kapangyarihan over our courts. Yung courts po natin hindi required to give effect immediately to the decisions of those courts kasi magka-equal sovereignty po yan eh. Pagpantay po sila sa international law. Pagdating naman doon sa issue ng ICC warrant, hindi po kasi foreign court yun, no? International court po siya. It doesn't mean that yung ICC may power siya over the Supreme Court and di rin may power yung Supreme Court over the ICC. What the main difference is that in our Constitution, we agreed to incorporate generally accepted principles of international law, and we also agreed to transformation in Article 7, Section 21, which says na yung mga treaties na sinang-ayunan natin, bahagi na yan ng batas natin. No? Kasi part siya ng international obligations natin which we commit to in our Constitution. That means that if part tayo ng Rome Statute during the relevant time and we continue to have residual obligations even if we've left the Rome Statute,
Right.
then we are required to give effect to the warrants that are issued by the ICC. So malaki po yung difference nila no, na on that first point. Yung second point, quick point is, wala pong rules na nag-a-apply for this particular case kay ICC, dun sa enforcement ng ICC warrant. And tama po yung suggestions in some of the concurring opinions yesterday na hindi naman po pinakda ng constitution natin, or it could not have been the design na dahil international criminal court na yung nag-issue, parang may second chance to prove yung inaaresto, no? Yung proper place po for that person to contest the validity of his arrest, yung grounds against him, and to prove his innocence ultimately is in the international forum with the ICC, hindi na po with our court. So may ganun po na counting difference, or actually hindi counting, no, significant differences, yung international criminal court process or the ICC process at yung normal extradition process natin with the courts of another country.
Okay, and Attorney, of course, I'd like to ask you itong isang contentious issue na pinag-uusapan ngayon. Tagging nila kay Senator Bato as a fugitive from justice and is armed and dangerous. What do you make of that, Attorney?
So first, the TRO denial doesn't say na fugitive from justice siya. No? The Solicitor General in her comment, I think 2 weekends ago, suggested na yung fugitive disentitlement doctrine would apply to Senator Bato. Very briefly for your viewers, that simply means na yung korte hindi na pakikinggan yung partido, parang wala siyang standing sa tapat ng korte na yon hanggang handa siyang humarap.
Okay.
So he cannot seek relief from that court until the time that he applies or appears to that court. Hindi naman po ni-rule ng korte yung kahapon. No? Very narrow po yung ruling nila sa TRO denial. But on a second point po, and therefore, kung ang pinag-uusapan natin ay pugante, fugitive po ba si Senator Bato, in how we normally understand it, I think you have a case for either side, for both sides. Maybe in law, hindi po malinaw, no, na fugitive siya, but certainly, if pinag-uusapan lang natin is currently malayo ba siya from the arm of the law, na kaya po ba siyang pasagutin or ipanagot ng mga proseso natin, hindi po siya mahuli at hindi po siya makita. So kahit pa paano may sense po yung characterization na fugitive po siya currently.
And what is this armed and dangerous na tinag sa kanya ng NBI? Pwede ba gawin ng NBI yan, Attorney?
Well, wala naman pong batas na nagbabawal, no? But I think yung armed and dangerous is simply part of what the NBI does from a law enforcement angle na iba po kasi yung fugitive na hindi lang humakita ng NBI dun sa fugitive na baka manlaban yan kung makita ho ninyo. So it's just a signaling on the law enforcement side. In terms of legal effect, availability of processes, etc., wala naman po necessarily affect yung pagiging armed and dangerous. So it's more on the law enforcement aspect.
Attorney, I'd like to ask lang kasi may isa pa ako nakikitang pinag-uudebatehan online regarding RA 9851, no? That the country may surrender to the international court. Now, a question ko is, if we were never hypothetically a member of the ICC and the ICC deemed that somebody had committed crimes against humanity, can a government hypothetically turn over this person kahit walang residual obligations?
Tentatively, I think you can make the case na hindi po pwede. No? Kasi yung RA 9851 doesn't really, I mean, it's still subject to constitutional rules. For example, on the warrant requirement, no, or extradition processes as part of due process. Parang pasok pa rin naman po doon. I think other academics would have a different view. But from a purely constitutional angle, parang maintindihan ko po, yung argument na hindi po enough yun kung hindi po tayo member ng Rome Statute. But importante po kasi na we were a member to the Rome Statute. And may residual obligations tayo to enforce or to ensure na yung processes on investigations begun when we were still members ay masundan din po natin.
Yeah.
I think on another point, in the particular case of the ICC, baka may narrow po na exception for the ICC because yung RA 9851, nauna pa ho yan before tayo pumasok sa
Yes.
Rome Statute. So ibig sabihin po na the legislators may have precisely contemplated this situation. So if it's an international court in general, baka hindi po in the general case, but the unique circumstances of the ICC now, both our entry into the treaty, pati yung legislative history
Yes.
natin, I would suggest na baka pwede po, no, kahit wala pong warrant.
But I have a very
Domestic warrant.
Oo. I have a very quick question before we let you go, attorney. Kasi doon po sa Rome Statute niya 9851, nakalagay po may, diba? The government may coordinate with the International Criminal Court. I was wondering nga po kasi na, let's say for example, sa susunod na administrasyon at medyo friendly po or hindi po siya sang-ayon doon sa ICC, magiging iba rin po yung interpretasyon. That's why, how significant po yung magiging ruling
Ng Supreme
ng
Court.
Supreme Court on this na talagang eventually, this will help us talaga, know our obligations to the International Criminal Court.
So, two quick points. The first is, babalikan po natin yung comment ng Solicitor General. I think one of the things na ina-argue po nung gobyerno natin ay the enforcement of an ICC warrant rests with executive discretion. Kung gusto natin ipasagawa yan, then RA 9851 recognizes
Yun.
because of the language na
Yeah.
parang prerogative ng gobyerno natin kung susunod tayo dun sa mga warrant processes. Or sorry, kung i-implement natin yung warrants of an international court.
Government means
So-
president.
Yes, the executive. Kasi sa gobyerno po natin, yung presidente po ang chief of foreign
Right.
of foreign policy.
That's right.
Siya po yung sole architect of foreign policy. So if part of foreign policy involves complying with international law, international legal processes, then the suggestion of the OSG's comment is that the court should not stand in the way of that foreign policy. But a second point po siguro regarding the court's upcoming impending main decision on the main case is certainly it will provide some clarity. I think regardless of your political side, ang trabaho lang naman po ng academics maging objective and truthful on this. Mahirap po yung case, no? Hindi po siya ganun kasimple. And of course, the parties will say na, there's the law is clearly in their favor or the law is clearly on the other side. Pero parang ito po kasi yung case ng ICC. Nasa intersection po to ng international law and domestic law. And we don't get that many cases. No? So naintindihan naman po natin na difficult yung kaso. I think may law po na mag-a-apply based on my own study, the study of other academics. There is currently a position forming. But hindi po ibig sabihin nun na hindi makakatulong yung clarity from the court. This might be one of those situations where, particularly given how politically charged yung ICC, a fair, objective, well-balanced judgment from the court might actually clarify what it means for us currently as a country that has left the Rome Statute but has residual obligations to the International Criminal Court.
Ayun. Alright. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras and of course sa inyong insights. Attorney Paolo Tamase, Associate Dean of the UP College of Law. Good morning and thank you so much.
Good morning and thank you.
Hirap talaga nun no? Kailangan talaga yung decision
Maganda
ng
kasi
korte.
yung-
Kasi mamaya pag iba na yung presidente, pwedeng iba rin yung interpretasyon niya.
Pero yung court remains the same.
Yeah.
So ayun. Makes sense.